On the cover of this book. What do you think could happen if you smiled at a monkey? Now let's look at the back cover. How has the monkey's face changed from the front cover to the back cover? Okay, so the book that we are reading this morning is Never Smile at a Monkey and 17 Other Important Things to Remember by Steve Jenkins. I'm going to read this paragraph off to the side, and this is going to tell us what this book is about. Steve Jenkins has written a lot of books about animals, and this is just one of them. So here's the paragraph. When it comes to wild animals, everyone knows that there are certain things you just don't do. It's clearly a bad idea to tease a tiger, pull a python's tail, or bother a black widow spider. But do you know how dangerous it can be to pet a platypus, collect a cone shell, or touch a tangfish? Some creatures have developed unusual ways of protecting themselves or catching prey, and this can make them unexpectedly hazardous to your health. What do you think hazardous means? Hazardous means dangerous, okay? So it says this can make them unexpectedly dangerous or hazardous to your health. In this dynamic and fascinating picture book, you'll find out what you should never do if you encounter one of these surprisingly dangerous animals. All right, so I want you to watch out for surprisingly dangerous animals as I read this book. Let's get into it. Everyone knows that tigers, crocodiles, sharks, and other large predators are dangerous. Many smaller animals are also well-known threats. People do their best to avoid rattlesnakes, black widow spiders, and piranhas, to name just a few. This book is about creatures, both large and small, whose dangerous nature may not be so obvious. Their teeth, claws, spines, and venom can be deadly to unsuspecting or careless humans. What makes these animals so dangerous? And what should you never do if you encounter one of them? Never pet a platypus. This peculiar-looking animal appears harmless, even comical, as it waddles about. The platypus, however, is the only poisonous mammal. It has venomous spurs on its hind legs, and it can give you a very painful jab. Never collect a cone shell. If you notice one of these beautifully patterned shells on the seafloor, you might be tempted to pick it up. That would be a big mistake. The cone shell hunts and defends itself with poisoned barbs that can be launched like harpoons. The barbs are so poisonous that you can die within minutes of being stabbed. I want you to look at the platypus and the cone shell. Do they look dangerous to you? To me, they don't look that dangerous. The platypus has fur on it, and he kind of has like a funny beak, and the cone shell just looks like a regular shell. To me, they don't look very dangerous. How are these two animals alike in the way that they protect themselves? So if you remember, the platypus has venomous spurs on its hind legs that he can stab you with. And then also the cone shell has poisonous barbs that he can stab you with as well. So if you notice, both the platypus and the cone shell are poisonous animals. Never harass a hippopotamus. Hippos kill more people in Africa than any other wild animal. If a hippopotamus finds its path to the water blocked, Or if it thinks that its baby is threatened, it will charge, attacking with an enormous mouth and long tusks. Never jostle a jellyfish. A box jellyfish, that is. Most jellyfish can sting people, but the box jellyfish, known as a sea wasp, is in a class by itself. Even the smallest contact with its stinging tentacles causes intense pain. If you are unlucky enough to become really entangled with a box jellyfish, you could die very quickly. Never step on a stingray. Normally, stingrays do not attack people. But if you step on a ray or frighten it by swimming too close, you can be seriously injured, or if you're really unlucky, killed. The ray can drive its long, poisonous spine deep into the body of any animal or human that it perceives as a threat. Jostle, the word jostle here, means to push or bump against something. Why shouldn't you jostle a jellyfish? So it says that if you jostle a jellyfish, you might become entangled with it and it might end up stinging you with its long tentacles. So then why shouldn't you jostle a stingray? So it says that if you end up jostling or stepping on the stingray, this poisonous spine that it has, it can end up poking you and hurting you. When an animal thinks of you as a threat, it senses or feels that you might harm it. So it says, and human that it perceives as a threat. So that means that it thinks that you're dangerous and that you might hurt it. Never clutch a cane toad. This large, homely amphibian is a gentle insect eater. It's harmless, except for 2 large sacs of venom on its neck. If pressed, these pouches squirt out a blinding and sometimes deadly poison. So these right here. Never poach a pufferfish. The pufferfish can inflate itself like a prickly balloon, but that's not what makes it dangerous. This fish's flesh contains a deadly toxin, and unless you know exactly what you are doing, cooking and eating it can kill you. Never cuddle a cub. Black bears try to avoid people and are rarely aggressive. One exception is a mother bear that thinks her cubs are in danger. Bear cubs are fuzzy and cute, and you might want to get a closer look, even foolishly. Try to pet one. Since the mother bear is usually nearby, this is not a good idea. So look at how Steve Jenkins, the author, made these bear illustrations. What do you see that he has done with the paper to create the bear's fur? So if you look really closely, you can see that there's little crinkle marks all over the bear. So Steve Jenkins, when he was creating the illustrations for this book, he crumpled up a piece of paper, a piece of black paper, a bunch of times, and he cut it out and kind of frayed the edges to make it look furry. Never stare at a spitting cobra. If you come across this hooded, hissing reptile, you'll probably suspect that it is dangerous. What you might not realize is that it can spit its venom accurately for more than 8 feet. It aims for the eyes, and its poison can cause intense pain, even permanent blindness. Never caress an electric caterpillar. This colorful caterpillar will turn into a harmless brown moth, but until that happens, look out. If your skin touches its hairy bristles, you'll feel an intense burning sensation. Without immediate medical attention, weakness, severe illness, and death can follow. Never corner a cassowary. The cassowary is a flightless bird that stands as tall as a man. Though it is shy and avoids people, a surprised or cornered cassowary can deliver a lethal kick with its sharp claws. Never antagonize an African buffalo. The African buffalo, a relative of the domestic cow, is one of the most dangerous large animals in the world. It has sharp hooves, long horns, and an extremely nasty temper. It's not enough to just stay out of the way of the African buffalo. If you are anywhere in its vicinity, this unpredictable animal may attack without warning. So, what is this whole book about? All the warnings have told you what happens if you bother an animal. What do you think the word antagonize means? So I think that antagonize means bother. If you think about it, if you have an older sibling or if you have a younger sibling, you might antagonize your older sibling, or your younger sibling might antagonize you. It just means bother or get on your nerves. So if you antagonize or bother or get on the nerves of an African buffalo, it can get really mad. So it says nasty tempered. That means it gets very, very angry.